My Licorice is alive with Oh Lady Be Good, an all-time fave scribed by those brothers Gershwin, and by that I mean George and Ira. Holy high watermark. Talk about a dynamic duo. Music-wise, the brothers Gershwin pretty much rocked the 20th century. Oh Lady Be Good was written in 1924 for a Broadway musical of the same title, which starred Fred Astaire and his sister Adele. Anyway, The Good Lady has been pretty much a jazz standard ever since, with recordings by Benny, by that I mean Goodman, and The Count, by that I mean Basie from the swing era, and the tune was made manifest in the bop era by Charlie Parker and the incandescent Ella Fitzgerald, and more recently by The Velvet Fog, by that I mean Mel Torme and Buddy Rich. And just now, on my Licorice, you have my little take. Hope you dig. Welcome, folks, to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you, as always, from the enchanted enclave known as Crotona. By that I mean my nutshell of infinite space, otherwise known as my television studio apartment, located in the wood of my holly, under the sign that overlooks the post-apocalyptic, COVID-addled, protest-scarred, yet still somehow enchanted land of law. First off, folks, I have a confession. I've been feeling kind of guilty about a certain group of kids from my high school days, and I sort of need, well, to unburden myself, if you don't mind. Now, the kids I'm talking about were largely invisible, rarely noticed, and never ever got their due. The hot chicks ignored them. They ate lunch alone. They never partied. They didn't get high or drunk or stay out late. For the most part, they didn't surf or skateboard, and they rarely, if ever, got laid. Nope. These folks, they studied, usually alone, late into the night, far into the weekends, while the rest of us were screwing around. They were deep diving into history books. They were getting lost in literature. They cracked equations, and the more adventurous of them fantasized about hunting microbes in distant jungles, and then with rare specimens in hand, curing exotic diseases. Rather than scoring touchdowns or hitting homers or nailing buzzer beaters, they joined math clubs and attended science fairs. For the most part, they loathed sports, resented the jocks, and secretly lusted after the cheerleaders who wouldn't give them the time of day. I know these are stereotypes, but there is some truth lurking there. These ever so studious invisibles, by that I mean the A students, the kids who crushed their SATs and left their hometowns as soon as possible, bound east and west to the ivy-enshrouded walls of elite universities. You know who I'm talking about, folks. The nerds. Please, girl nerds and boy nerds, wherever you are, if ever I ignored you, or if I ever disrespected or rejected, if I ever teased or in some unknown way humiliated, I am now officially submitting my apology herewith, and furthermore, I am now submitting this open letter with the following ever so humble request. Dear nerds, please save us. Please figure out a fucking vaccine. It's out there. I know it. It's lurking somewhere in the shadows, waiting to be plucked in its chemical entirety out of obscurity. To be sure, there is some killer molecule out there that will disable the corona and render it lifeless and harmless. Please, if you can, adjust your bifocals, straighten your mask, wipe the fog off your face shield, and focus your microscope, and get to work. There's a Nobel Prize waiting for you if you can find it, isolate it, recreate it, and then mass produce it. And it's out there, I know it. Its molecular signature is lurking in the shadows somewhere. Maybe it's in the leaf of a plant, or the mold of a mushroom, or in the stem of a flower, or in the sweat glands of a chipmunk. Who knows? Just fucking find it. Or maybe with the crafty bit of genetic engineering, one of you lab nerds can flip a few genetic strands of RNA inside that little Co-19 killer molecule, and that will render it inert and harmless. It's out there. You just need to find it. And when you do, I will be sincerely, kindly, and truly in your debt forever. Bill Kalmanson. otherwise known as the rebel without applause. And mark my word, folks, they will find it. I just hope it's sooner than later. My guess, and well, I'm just spitballing here, my guess is that the next Jonas Salk will have a name with like 5 syllables in it, probably from India or maybe Iran or Pakistan. Or who knows, maybe it'll be the son of some Vietnamese refugee or the daughter of a Mexican housekeeper, or it'll be an insanely lonely Chinese kid who will stumble onto the COVID-killing bullet. Or maybe it'll be some smart, four-eyed Israeli youth who teams up with a Palestinian brainiac in some secret lab in an abandoned bunker on the West Bank, and the two of them will figure it out. Or who knows? It might just be some pimply, overweight girl from the inner city who crammed and studied her way into a historical black college medical school and then hustled her way into some ivory tower research institute. Maybe she'll be the team leader that locates and isolates the compound that will set us all free. Whoever it is, folks, the rest of us need to show a little more respect to those A-student invisibles. We need to celebrate and nurture our nerds like the rare flowers they really are. Those are the folks whose silhouettes should be stenciled on the sides of our gym shoes. From this moment forth, it should be some four-eyed pencil-necked nerd who adorns the Wheaties box. From this time forth, it should be some silent, sex-starved science savant who splashed across our billboards. And for you hot chicks, by that I mean the super babes out there, you know who you are. Instead of dispensing your sexual favors to rich guys in Beamers or some super jock on the Laker roster, try throwing a bone to a lonely research scientist once in a while, because nerds have needs too. So folks, whoever you are, do your part, please. This is a team effort. Everybody can do their part, even us regular people. By that I mean the C students or the recreation-obsessed, success-at-all-costs multitudes that make up the most of us. And maybe it's high time that we take a break from our fixation on jocks and focus on our nerds. Because with all due respect to LeBron, who I have come to love and admire, you're not going to shoot a basketball to a cure, and Tom Brady isn't going to touchdown his way to a vaccine. It's going to be a scientist, or more probably a team of scientists schooled in the scientific method that shined the light into the tunnel we are now in. And for you global warming denialists, it's time you show a little respect for the scientific method. It's a method based on trial and error and then more trial. It's a method grounded in meticulous observation and disciplined note-taking. It's a method anchored by statistics and probabilities and the immutable laws of chemistry and physics. It sits on the shoulders of the great thinkers, innovators, and brilliant groundbreakers that came before. Folks like Aristotle and Galileo and Copernicus and Maimonides, folks like Newton and Einstein and Pasteur, and yes, that pencil-neck geek from Pittsburgh who got us out of that polio mess. By that I mean Jonas Salk. It's the likes of those nerds that we should be betting on now. Now, I have heard some say that vaccines aren't natural, that vaccines are all part of some nefarious, evil-minded plot by Big Pharma to kill and enslave, or rather, enslave and then kill. Well, let me say this. There is no course of action that does not come without risk. No one is guaranteed a free pass through this life. There is a risk to a properly trialed and tested vaccine, albeit a small one, but the risk of doing nothing is way, way worse. The risk of letting this COVID-19 killer BB have its way with humanity will be catastrophic. Failure to protect and failure to vaccinate is the biggest risk there is. Without a workable vaccine, we can't get to herd immunity without the extinction of untold millions. Without vaccine, there is no commerce. Without vaccines, there are no sports, and worse yet, and this is almost too terrible to even imagine, without a workable vaccine, nobody's ever going to a comedy club again, which means that yours truly will never hear the sound of real laughter and applause again. Without a vaccine, we might as well time tunnel our way back into the Middle Ages. Remember the Middle Ages? Think feudalism, think the Black Plague and the 100 Years' War. Or worse yet, we can all become hunters and gatherers again and wander the vacant hinterland in search of berries and woolly mammoths. See how that goes. Now, to be fair, I've heard others argue from the bottom of their well-meaning hearts that we should achieve our immunity naturally, like our ancestors did. Which ancestors? You mean like the Native Americans who died naturally from European diseases without a trace? Gee whiz gee. All of which begs a pretty fundamental question. What is natural? My answer is this. Vaccines are a product of human intelligence, period. And let there be no doubt, human intelligence is just as natural as a bear taking a shit in the woods. After all, human intelligence evolved under the same pressures that birds and bees did. Ergo, vaccines are as natural as a flower or a frigging volcano. And for you conspiracy-addled denialists, here's some advice. And I know it's going to be hard to follow, but try it. Get out of your silo. Escape your echo chamber. By that I mean log out of your frigging websites and social media accounts. Just turn that shit off. Then take a deep breath, preferably outdoors with a mask on, and then open a real newspaper with articles by trained journalists who are accountable to experienced editors and a verifiable system of information gathering. Then pour a glass of your favorite organic herbal-infused tea. Then breathe again, take a sip, and go to the COVID updates, usually in the upper corner of the front page of that newspaper. Count the coffins. Add up the hospitalizations, tabulate the occupied ICU beds, and then consider the newest infection rate. They are all going up. And these numbers are not a charade. They are not part of some grand illusion to hide some deeper conspiracy by Bill Gates or Big Pharma or Big who the fuck ever. Those numbers are cold, hard truths that tell a chilling story of disease, debilitation, and death. Then take another breath and another gulp from that same cup of herbal-infused organic tea and realize this. Science and reason and discipline are the only way forward. And while our nerds are in the laboratories trying to unlock the mysteries of this invisible enemy, the rest of us need to wear our fucking masks and keep our frigging distance till our nerds can figure this fucker out. So let's get this vaccine done. Let's get it figured and tested and into the bodies of the rest of us. And when they do, I will be first in line. And while we're at it, come to think of it, this November, let's evict the PVP. By that, I mean Putin's vice president. Let's evict the PVP from the White House and relocate him to the big house where he belongs. And then maybe we should replace some of those Confederate statues with the cool statue of some of our favorite life-saving nerds, whoever they may be. And let's put those statues everywhere. In front of state houses and courthouses and schools, because it's the nerds who are going to save us. That's for frigging sure. Happy 4th, folks, or a belated Juneteenth. Stay safe and smart. Till next time, namaste, shalom, and aloha. Namashaloha.